Hello, and welcome to the next episode of Listen to Your Eyes, a podcast presented by Horizon Therapeutics for people who have a thyroid condition and are experiencing problems with their eyes. Throughout this series, you can learn more about thyroid eye disease, or TED, and hear from physicians, caregivers, and others who discovered that their eye symptoms were actually TED. My name is Lauren Friedman. I'm a nationally board certified health and wellness coach and the host and creator of Uninvisible Pod, a podcast about living with invisible chronic illness and disability. As some of you may know, July is Graves' Disease Awareness Month. For those who may be unaware, Graves' disease is an autoimmune disorder that can cause hyperthyroidism or an overactive thyroid. Graves' disease affects 1 in 100 Americans. Today, in recognition of Graves' Disease Awareness Month, I'll be joined by Donna Moss, mother, wife, grandmother, interior designer, and HGTV star, who has also been living with Graves' disease for 2 years now. In this episode, we'll discuss Donna's journey with Graves' disease, her discovery of TED symptoms, and tips for those living with Graves. Donna, welcome.
Hello. Well, thank you for having me, Lauren. I'm excited to be here.
We're so excited to have you. And are you ready to get started?
I am.
Wonderful. Well, to start, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself for listeners who may not be familiar with your story?
Okay. Well, first of all, I've been married for 45 years to my husband, Paul. And I know that's rare, but yes, 45 years. We have 3 kids, 7 grandkids, and I just found out an 8th on the way.
Congratulations.
Yay. So that should be it, though. We're not doing any more. but I love hanging out with my family, and my husband Paul is in the commercial real estate development business, as well as he builds custom homes and commercial offices, and so we're in the construction business too. And I've been in the interior design business for over 30 years. So all of our kids are kind of under our little umbrella too. My son Kyle runs the custom home construction part of our business. Daughter Tiffany, who's my oldest, runs the business, does the books, runs the office. And Ashley is a real estate broker, so she does all of our real estate transactions. But both girls work with me also in my interior design business. So one big happy family.
That's really lovely.
Sort of, when we're getting along. But and as you can tell, we love homes, we love construction, we love design. So we always find ourselves working together quite a bit. And but some of the most fun that we have was captured on my show on HGTV called Donna Decorates Dallas. And so for 2 years, the cameras followed us all over the Dallas-Fort Worth area, where we remodeled and decorated beautiful homes all over. So it was fun. And of course, I love to travel and spend time with my grandkids. And one of the things I really love doing is raising money for causes that are really close to my heart. And I do a lot of show homes to raise money for things like Alzheimer's research or A Wish for Rings, different charities. And I actually just authored a coffee table book that's about 4 of the show homes. And we talk about some of the different charities. So that was exciting too. And besides that, I've been living with Graves' disease for over 2 years now. So
wow.
Here, right?
Yes, that's the purpose of our conversation today, but it's wonderful to hear about how busy and active your life is, which I know we're going to talk about, because sometimes these diagnoses can create roadblocks. But let's talk about that Graves' disease diagnosis. And thank you again for sharing your story with us. What alerted you that something could be going on with you health-wise?
Well, being in the design business, so here in Dallas, we have what's Dallas Market Center, which is a large home furnishing market, and I'm always there. I'm always speaking, I'm a guest, I'm always doing something. But this particular January at market, I started sweating uncontrollably. My heart was just beating just out of my chest. I was just so distracted. I had a hard time concentrating to even speak on camera, and that rarely happens, never happens to me. But anyway, it was very concerning. It worried me. And so on the way home, I called my doctor's office just to make an appointment. I thought, I don't know what this is, but and we have it checked out. Well, the receptionist, when she heard about the heart palpitations and the sweating and all of that, she was adamant. She said, no, you need to get yourself to the ER like now. And I'm like, I'm not so sure about that. I'm going to go home. I'll get my husband, I'll go up there. I promise. And she's like, no, I am not getting off the phone until you're in the parking lot going into the ER. And so I did. I went, and, I was, I was scared, because as things escalated, I really started to wonder, am I having a heart attack? I didn't know. And, but so I was so glad that she stayed on the phone with me and got me inside of there, because I know I would have brushed off the symptoms had I gone home, and I would have ended up in a really bad state, because I probably wouldn't have followed up with it. I would have felt better the next day and never thought about it again. But the good thing is, during the ER visit, they were very, very thorough. And I was tested for all kinds of things. And I was diagnosed that day with Graves' disease.
Wow. I mean, first of all, we have to thank the receptionist at your doctor's office for being, she's so aware and so on it in terms of, because even if it had been a heart attack, say, the fact that she was urging you to go to the ER was wonderful work on her part and your doctor's part for hiring her. But it's so interesting that, this an ER visit and very quick diagnosis were the things that brought you to find out that you have Graves. So how were your emotions at the time of diagnosis? What was that experience like?
Well, I was so shocked. I'd never heard of Graves' disease. And when they gave me the diagnosis, I was like, I was relieved and I was happy. But then on the other hand, Graves' disease sounded really serious. And it is. I mean, it is. So, I was happy I was diagnosed, but then I was like wondering what in the world is going to happen.
Well, the name itself is definitely off-putting in many ways. That's for sure.
I know. Yeah. Sounds great.
Wow, it sounds like one foot in the grave, doesn't it? And that's not necessarily the case at all. So as you're here to attest, I'm sure. But as a reminder for our listeners, Graves' disease is an autoimmune disorder, which means your immune system attacks a healthy part of your body by mistake. And in Graves' disease, the immune system attacks the thyroid, causing it to become overactive and produce more thyroid hormone than the body needs. And this is what we also call hyperthyroidism. So, Donna, do you recall any other symptoms before this sort of diagnosis moment, aside from the palpitations?
Well, yes. Thinking back over, what had been happening to me before that, I'd lost a lot of weight, which I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know why, but this is great.
Yeah, we usually see that as a good thing. Yeah, it's a tough one, that one. Yeah.
It's like 20 pounds. And I'm like, oh, okay, I can take that. But also my hair, I noticed, was starting to thin. And so I talked to my hairdresser about it, and he didn't know what was going on. And so, of course, those kind of symptoms, I just ignored them, and I didn't take them as seriously as I really should have.
I think that's pretty common in diagnosis with Graves. And I'm so glad that you were able to receive a diagnosis as quickly as you did, because we often hear stories from other guests who have taken years and years to find out what was happening.
Oh gosh, I know. I was really lucky, and I owe it to the receptionist, of course. But about a year ago, and I don't know if you can tell, but one of my right eyelid started drooping a little bit, and I thought, well, I'm in my 60s. It's probably just aging. So I started seeing some plastic surgeons to see if they could fix it. And I mean, it wasn't bad, but of course they all wanted to do a facelift, and I'm like, okay, I'll be back. But, even now in the mornings, my eyes are dry and itchy, and I get a lot of pain behind my eyes and a lot of pressure.
Wow. Well, if it makes you feel better about it, I would never have noticed it on camera today. So
stay close.
but I understand the concern for sure, and how self-conscious it can make us when our bodies start changing because of what's going on with our health. And oftentimes many Graves patients go on to develop thyroid eye disease, or TED. And this is a rare chronic autoimmune condition that affects your eyes. And I know you mentioned that. So can I ask, how did you realize this might be something more than just Graves' disease?
Well, when I was in the ER and first diagnosed, the doctor and the nurse both had mentioned that I needed to pay close attention to my eyes because I was at an increased risk for thyroid eye disease, which is a separate but related condition, and it really needs to be treated separately too. So, of course, when I got home that night, I started researching all these things and learned, there are a number of TED symptoms, which is pain and pressure, double vision, eye bulging, and potential vision loss. So, it's pretty bad. And then I realized I had a friend that lives with TED. So she had prominent TED symptoms where her eyes were bulging, and she was misdiagnosed even with her eyes that bad for 2 years. So, talking about how I was so lucky in the ER, she went 2 years and didn't get a diagnosis until she self-diagnosed herself. And it was extremely hard on her because her symptoms were so bad that it altered her appearance. So much so that when she would go meet friends that she hadn't seen in a while, she would have to let them know that she looked a lot different than she used to because of this. And I learned a lot from her. Just that helped me understand. And because I knew that Graves' disease or Graves' thyroid eye disease can happen at any time, even if you're in remission, I monitor my eyes all the time for symptoms. And really, after hearing about her struggle, I felt lucky knowing what to look for. And I don't know, maybe I overthink things just like with my eye, but, many people that have Graves' disease do not know that they are at risk for not just Graves' disease, but even other conditions, that they're at risk for thyroid eye disease. So just recently when I noticed, I had a persistent drying, but then my eyes had started being really gritty and more pressure behind my eyes. So I made an appointment with a specialist for an eye exam.
Wow. I mean, this story about your friend is so fascinating to me because we all need a friend like that on many levels, right?
Well, yeah. And it's just eye-opening to know that she went so many years, doctor after doctor, getting misdiagnosed when it was so obvious. Now, to me, I feel like it's obvious because I've researched it a lot and I've been living with Graves' disease for so long, but so many people have no clue.
It's very interesting that your doctors and the nurses at the ER said, look out for thyroid eye disease because you had this early warning.
Yes. And it's also, I reread my discharge papers too, when I was researching this, and it was written in the discharge papers. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty exceptional. So I know you mentioned that you have been having these possible TED symptoms. So you made an appointment for a comprehensive eye exam. So if you don't mind me asking, how was that appointment? And can you tell us maybe a bit about how you felt going in for the appointment too?
Well, I was nervous, but, again, I did my research before, I went into this eye doctor and kind of, knew what test would likely be done. And of course, I hoped the doctor would tell me that I didn't have TED, which he did, but it was after a brief physical eye exam. And he also measured my eyes for bulging with this little instrument. But it was not a comprehensive exam at all. So I feel like because I looked okay and my eyes looked okay, that he didn't take my symptoms seriously. In fact, I don't know if he was just trying to be funny or not, but he said, I notice a lot of makeup in your eyes.
Oh, dear.
Oh, okay. Well, when I told him I had pressure behind my eyes, they're pressure checking my eyes or whatever. And, I just feel like there's things that I had researched, like the optic nerve could have been checked. There could have been lab work and imaging tests and things like that. So I was very frustrated when I left this doctor. So I went home and I made a new doctor's appointment.
That's amazing. And that's something that so many people aren't empowered in their healthcare journeys to do, right? To know that you can hire and fire at will. If your doctor's not working for you, you can go home and you can call someone else.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's what I did.
And how was this second appointment with the new clinician?
Well, so I haven't gone yet. So after this appointment, which was fairly recently, I learned about teddoctors.com. And so I pulled that up and I simply put in my zip code, and it pulled up a whole list of doctors, TED specialists that are near me. The one I'm going to go to is like 8 minutes away from my house. So, of course, when I made the appointment with her too, the receptionist, she read me a whole list. I love these receptionists. They're so thorough.
They really are.
So she read me a whole list of what they would be doing for this visit. It's going to be a 2-hour visit. So, you know, it's going to be all the things I expected with the other eye doctor that I did not get. And that's, you know, so for those listening, it was teddoctors.com where I found this.
And you were able to search by zip code, right? To find the list of specialists near you.
Yep. Just popped in my zip code and a whole list of them came up. So I went through and, you know, kind of researched, you know, the different ones and found one that I think she's going to be wonderful. And she's just 8 minutes from my house. The other doctor was like 45 minutes. So
wow. So meant to be that you're sticking closer to home.
That's right.
Yeah. And I'm so glad to hear that you've empowered yourself, being able to do the research to, you know, pick a clinician who is going to serve you more in the way that you're hoping. And also getting the support of friends and family, it sounds like, because you're so close with your family and your friend who has TED. And to take action proactively, advocating for your personal health. It's exceptional to hear. And it's very exciting for people like me to hear this as a patient advocate, you know, to know that you're doing the work. So I do also want to circle back to your diagnosis a little bit. Can you talk to us about how your life has changed since you had that event in the ER?
Yes. Well, you know, since the diagnosis and working with doctors to get my thyroid under control, my life has really improved. In fact, today I had a doctor's appointment and I'm in remission, and they did an ultrasound and I'm doing great. And my cardiologist confirmed that the palpitations were caused by my thyroid and have since stopped. So I'm in remission and thankful, especially to the receptionist, again, who insisted I go to the ER. And I'm proud of myself for making my health a priority. You know, I've always been really active and believe, you know, I can continue to live the life I want to live now. And, you know, for those of you listening, I can tell you getting the right medical care is the very first step to help you continue living a long, happy life, despite whatever, you know, your diagnosis might be.
I can't thank you enough for sharing that, Donna. I can relate so much to what you're talking about. I myself, and I myself have an autoimmune thyroid diagnosis, not Graves', but Hashimoto's. So I'm on the other end of the spectrum, right?
Yeah.
But I had those ups and downs too, where I had to decide a clinician wasn't for me and had to pick someone else, and had the support of my family and my friends rallying around me. And I know not everyone does. So I'm so happy that you were in that fortunate position. You were able to get the diagnosis. And yeah, that the diagnosis, it can be so reassuring because you can start to plan a path ahead, right?
Exactly. It is, you know, and for me, I realized it is not too late to embrace a mindset of educating myself, being proactive, and seeking out a specialist. You know, it's empowering. You need to remember that you are in the driver's seat for your own health. Hiccups might happen along the way, but there's so many resources and support groups. And like you were saying, family, friends, and loved ones to go along the ride with you.
I love that so much. I love that for you, and I love that for us. Do you have any advice for those who are tuning in who might be experiencing something similar?
Well, you know, for me, and many others, especially women. I think that we're so busy taking care of others or things in our life, our job, I know I'm usually the last to seek help because I always have a million excuses why I shouldn't. But it is important, really important to take your symptoms seriously. And I encourage anyone living with Graves or any other thyroid condition to pay attention to your eyes. Keep track of your symptoms, but the main thing is to find a doctor that will listen to you. I've been dealing with these eye symptoms for a couple of years, but I'm finally next week going to get the specialized care I need for my eyes. So finding the specialist is the key. And I found out too that not all eye doctors are TED specialists. So from this doctor, I learned that, TED specialists are ophthalmologists that have specialized training in diagnosing and managing TED. And so it's an oculoplastic surgeon or a neuro-ophthalmologist who are the specialized doctors. So don't go to any eye doctor, look for the specialized doctors.
Absolutely. And of course, teddoctors.com, that list can help you narrow things down, but also, as you say, look for oculoplastic surgeons, neuro-ophthalmologists, a few of which we've had on the show as well. And this is all such great advice. I want to thank you again, Donna, for being here today to talk about Graves and monitoring for TED symptoms. Are there any last words you want listeners to take away with them from your story?
Well, just trust yourself and advocate for yourself because you need to get the correct care for yourself. And if you have Graves' disease like me or another thyroid condition, just know it's not too late to focus on your eye health. It's important.
So true. And I want to thank you all for listening to today's episode of Listen to Your Eyes. Thank you again, Donna, for joining us. And for more information about thyroid eye disease, visit focusonted.com and join the Listen to Your Eyes Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube communities. Until next time, listen to your eyes.